Welcome back. Is your retirement at risk? Let's talk about that. We're joined by Ryan Jones with Edward Jones to do that. Hello, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Mary Grace. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us as always. It's important to save for retirement, but only half of Americans have calculated how much money they'll need. That's according to the 2024 Retirement Confidence Survey by the Employee Benefit Research Institute. Yet, without knowing how much you'll need, it's kind of hard to know if you're on track for reaching your goals for retirement, of course. So we're going to be talking about some considerations to help shape for retirement saving strategies. Ryan, let's go ahead and talk about that. Of course, I'm assuming the first one is kind of calculating how much you're going to need to save when it comes to retirement.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first part of a plan is actually making the plan. And starting there is kind of comparing to where you are now. Whether you wanted to start, I guess, living the same way you are now in retirement as you when we were at, I guess, earned income. From there, you kind of decide, hey, how much do I need? And that's always a good starting point or a baseline. Really, yeah.
Yeah. So what other considerations do you have?
Well, I guess now actually after having the plan is to actually start saving. Take advantage of the 401k plan, a 403b plan, 457 or their savings plan, and just make sure you're contributing, meeting their match. Even knowing how much you can put away. So if you're under 50, and you have a 401k plan, you can put 23,500 a year away. If you're plus 50 plus, you can do up to 31,000, which is an extra 7,500 a year. Or if you're 60 to 63, you can actually do $34,750 a year, which is an extra $11,250 for makeup contributions. So.
And what about whenever it comes to risk and taking the right amount of risk?
Yeah, well, I always say, what's your sleep number? You got to be able to lay in bed at night and make sure that you can comfortably get to sleep. But you don't want to, be on the low side, because if you're just keeping pace with inflation, you're not really growing your money at all. But you don't want to take too much risk because once again, you have to be able to lay down in bed at night and sleep. So finding that, I guess, that Goldilocks spot.
I love that. I love that sleep number, that Goldilocks spot. And so we're saving for retirement. We're saving for a lot of things though, right? We also want to be saving for things like emergencies. So how do we handle that?
Yeah, well, that's always a good place to actually have an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months is a good position for anyone to be in. But we also want to make sure we're not including that in our retirement bucket. So, you should have your emergency bucket and then an in-between, say, whether it's working on the house or a vacation or something that you're planning for near future, and then your retirement bucket. So we the 3-bucket strategy is the best way I can put it. Just make sure you're keeping them separate. That way you don't have to tie or take money away from your retirement because it could hurt you down the road. And that's always the plan to get to retirement, and we don't want to veer off of that road that we're on. So first step is always have an emergency fund.
And of course, we can only briefly touch on all of these strategies, but financial advisors can help you make sure we are on track to retirement. How can we reach out to you over at Edward Jones?
Yeah, the best way is to reach me by phone number is 816-279-1689 and ask for Ryan Jones.
Awesome. Ryan Jones with Edward Jones. Ryan, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me again. Thank you.
Of course. Stay with us. We'll be right back after a break.